gonna lie to you guys, entering this new space in my life is scary. By no means am I rich, you guys. I'm comfortable right now, but I'm not rich yet. I just started to get anxiety, like, okay, I gotta do more work because I gotta make sure I got enough money. But God had to remind me, like, girl, you're good. I've been sustaining you. It's okay to enjoy whatever it is that God has blessed you with in the moment. You don't always have to be constantly working towards your next big thing.
As the sun shines on all of my glory, my flaws don't look so bad at all. What was I so afraid of?
Hey everybody, it's Sharmel. Welcome back to Locs Lux Lifestyle. Welcome back to another video. So if you enjoy loc content, lifestyle content, and self-help and self-development content, then make sure to hit that subscribe button because I do a little bit of all of that. But welcome back to another video. First and foremost, Happy New Year. Y'all probably hear me say that a lot in these upcoming uploads because I don't know the order in which these videos will be uploaded, but I do want to make sure that I verbally get on camera and tell you all Happy New Year. So today I am back with another transparency talk. So not too long ago I posted my 2022 recap, and I was just talking about everything that happened in 2022, how it was a great year for me. In the last quarter I really learned how to rest and things of that nature. But on that video I got a comment, and the commenter was asking, like, how do you know when to rest and when it's time to work? And I thought that that would be a great video topic to begin this year off with. So I'm just going to be talking about some of the things that have helped me along my journey. So if you want to hear more, then keep watching. So the first thing that has helped me in this overall life journey is just becoming more self-aware. And I feel like self-aware is one of those words that we kind of hear being thrown around very often these days. And self-awareness is simply defined as a conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And the reason self-awareness has been so important is because if you're learning how to balance your life, work-life balance, family balance, balancing your responsibilities, resting, having fun, you need to be in tune with what you need in every moment. Unfortunately, life is chaotic and it's not much that we can do to get around some of the chaos of this world. So we can't expect to navigate this world without knowing or being aware of what we need in every moment. And I think the easiest way to begin being self-aware is just starting to keep track of your feelings. So say you're experiencing something very enjoyable. What is it that you're experiencing? What does the environment look like? Who are the people around you? When you're feeling anxious, what is usually triggering that anxiety? What's going on around you? And once you start to see the patterns, you can address the patterns. So if I know such and such is gonna stress me out, then I know I have to limit my time with such and such. If I know that this thing is going to distract me from my work, then I know that I need to limit the amount of time I spend with that thing. So becoming just, again, more self-aware of what you feel in every moment, what you need in those moments, it just helps you better navigate this life. And another thing that has assisted me with becoming more self-aware is prioritizing the time that I spend with God. So I tell y'all all the time, I'm not perfect. I have a lot of things that God is still working with me through. I have a lot of vices. I will forever be a work in progress. Like all of us, we will forever be a work in progress. But I've learned along my life journey that regardless of what's going on, there's sometimes where I'm very dedicated. There's sometimes where I slack off. But I've learned to keep him at the center because I know that he's my source. He's my provider. He's my protector. When I need guidance, I turn to him. Through this relationship that I've cultivated with God through Jesus Christ, I've also just learned to be more grateful. One thing that God worked with me a lot through last year is that I had a very ungrateful spirit, and it was something that I personally wasn't aware of. But a lot of times when I was overworked and stressed out about the future, it's because that I was not grateful for what God had already done for me. So part of learning how to balance my work and my rest was becoming more grateful of what God had already done and what he's doing, and continuing that work, but also resting in what he has done for me. Another thing that has helped me maintain more balance in my life is I had to shift my mindset regarding work and rest. So unfortunately, because of the society that we live in, labor and work has been so exploited within our world for hundreds of years. In American society, especially as Black people, we have never really had a healthy relationship with work in our existence in this country. And I'm not gonna go too far into that, but yes, our idea of work has always been exploited. So now currently it's a lot of people who don't want to work. I know I've gone through so many phases where it's like, oh, I don't feel like working, I don't want a job, I don't want to do nothing. And those things that I still fight with today. So yes, I had to really like shift my mindset and my feelings regarding work, because at the end of the day, work is a function of our society. So what we do may change, how we do it may change, but as we live in this world, there's always going to be some basic function of work in our lives. And the thing that really helped me with this mindset shift was Ecclesiastes 3. I know for sure I talked about this last year in a video where I talked about contentment, but if you're unfamiliar with Ecclesiastes 3, it's the A Time for Everything passage, a very familiar passage, one that I have heard over and over again, but it wasn't until last year where it really hit me. But in the passage, it just goes on to say, like, basically there's a time for everything. You know, there's a time to be born, there's a time to die, there's a time to plant, there's a time to harvest, there's a time to tear down, there's a time to build up. And it just goes through a bunch of things that, you know, there's literally a time for everything. And at the end of that passage, it goes on to say in verse 9, what do people really get from their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on all of us, yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I conclude there is nothing better than to be happy and to enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts of God. So this is a passage that really put into perspective of what work should be, because like I said, work will always be a basic function of our society. If a man don't work, a man don't eat. So we have to work. However, there should be conditions around the type of work that we do. When I think of work, I have two basic qualifications for the type of work I do. So for one, work should be productive. So ideally, if you're putting in consistent work, at some point you should start reaping some of those benefits. You should start seeing some fruits of your work. As I just read from Ecclesiastes, what do people get from all of their hard work? And it ends with people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. If I'm working, there should be progress, right? And obviously some things, they're gonna take longer than others, so you may not see it right away. But if I'm working consistently, if I'm putting in the right amount of effort, at some point I should begin to reap some of those benefits. And unfortunately, many of us, we're not doing that. We're just working to work, because unfortunately many of us have to work simply out of survival. And because we're working from a survival standpoint, we often end up on a hamster wheel, just going in circles, working, but really not having what we need to really progress and be productive. I haven't always been able to work with this mindset, but where I'm at now, I have learned to make sure that my work is productive. And additionally, if the work isn't productive, then I feel like work should be sustaining something or maintaining something, right? So it's either sustaining me financially. Like for my previous job, was it my dream job? Absolutely not. Was it a horrible environment? Absolutely not. So therefore, I was able to go do my work and collect my check, because my check was something that was sustaining me at the moment until it was time for me to move on to the next thing. For people who enjoy their jobs, they do it because it brings them happiness, it brings them joy, it brings them contentment. So therefore, if you're working productively and consistently, at some point you should be able to see some progress, right? And once you start seeing progress and you start reaping some of those benefits, ideally it should start sustaining certain areas of your life. Like I said, whether that's financial or just your overall joy and contentment. And then if and when you reach the point of exhaustion or overworking, stepping back and taking a break or resting won't feel like such a sacrifice, because you know the work and consistency that you have been putting in. Which brings me to my next point of how I had to change my mindset around rest. So just like work, many of us, we have also a poor relationship as it relates to rest. And many of us treat rest as if it's something that we have to earn, or it's something that we have to be deserving of. I had to realize that rest is an essential function of the human body. and rest is essential in our overall experience throughout life. Ideally, in a healthy scenario, right? So we all have our different rituals before we go to bed and stuff like that. But ideally, after a long day, you don't have to tell your body that it has to get tired. Your body will do it naturally, right? You'll do things like you'll yawn. Your body will just feel restless. Your eyes might get heavy. Like, there's different natural responses that happen when our bodies are tired, when they need to rest. When you think of like babies and infants, they sleep a large percentage of their first year of life, and even as they get older and, you know, into childhood, they still need to take like daily naps. As adults, we don't necessarily have to take naps as a child does every day, but we still need that rest to be functional. Kids who don't take naps, they be doing some wild stuff, and it's the same thing with us. We think that because we're not children that rest isn't as important, but if you go long enough without rest, you will not be able to operate in your best ability. At least for me, I don't perform well when I don't have the proper rest or if I'm overworked. So for me, not resting is not an option if I want to be productive. I feel like a lot of people wait until they're like extremely burnt out. Either they're sick or there's something extreme that happens before they realize that they need rest. When in reality, we should be prioritizing rest on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Like, obviously you can't take a vacation every week, but it starts with just getting the proper amount of rest at night so that you can have a productive day. It can also mean scheduling some me time once a week or every other week, or at least once a month. Try to get it in as often as you can. I get we all have different responsibilities and families and children and things of that nature, but you cannot neglect your self-care and your me time. Don't wait until something extreme happens to realize that your body needs to rest. Which brings me to my next point, is that many of us are living just very undisciplined lives. As a result, we're living very chaotic lives, non-productive lives, very exhausting lives. And that simply just comes from us normalizing bad habits. When it comes to living like a balanced life, you need to create structure and need to allocate time for work, personal time, and rest. So whenever I feel like my life is starting to get a little too chaotic and out of control, or I'm just not operating to my full potential, I always have to take a step back and get disciplined and create some structure around like my day-to-day life. A lot of people just get up and kind of go with the flow, and there are definitely times when you can do that, but in order to get to a place in your life where you can kind of move a little more fluid, first you have to start with creating discipline in your life. Because once you start moving fluidly, you need to be able to tell yourself like, okay, it's time to cut this off and get back to work. And when you start working a little too much, you need to be aware of that and say, okay, I need to cut this off and rest a little bit. And it goes back to, like I was saying, just being more self-aware. So ideally, you should be allocating time for work, allocating time for rest, allocating time for family, allocating time for self. It sounds very tedious and annoying, and when you're starting, it will be very tedious and annoying, but the more you create that structure and discipline, it will become second nature. Something that has helped me create more discipline and structure in my life is learning how to sync like work and rest with my body's natural clock and schedule. So for example, I am a morning person. I feel the most productive in the morning. I feel the most optimistic in the morning. If I had to choose between like getting up at 5 o'clock to do something versus taking care of it at like 9 o'clock at night, I would choose 5 a.m. every single time, because I know I don't operate the best later at night. So therefore, since I'm a morning person, if I know that there's work to be done, if I know that there's important stuff to take care of, I have to do it early in the day. If I try to put it off to the end of the day, it just won't get done. Sometimes, you know, I have to deter from that schedule every now and then because the world doesn't revolve around me. But ideally, if I have some control over it, I try to schedule it around what my body naturally feels. And again, that goes back to being self-aware. Another thing that has helped me is just learning how to make the most out of my days. So, you know, we all have different responsibilities, different obligations, things that we would rather be doing. And it's really easy to make excuses. And a lot of times the excuses, they're valid, but an excuse is still an excuse. You still won't have to do what you have to do. So right now I'm in a position where I have a little more openness and freedom with my schedule. So it's not that I try to fit everything in one day, but even when I was working in the office, like I used to steal company time a little bit, but even when I was working in the office, like if I had an errand to run and it was in close proximity, I would try to get it taken care of like on my lunch break. At that point in time, you know, I was working full time and I was also still creating content here on YouTube. I would sometimes take my personal laptop to work on my breaks, be in my car editing videos. If I had any downtime at work, I would thinking of video ideas, responding to emails, like whatever downtime that I had within like those hours, I would try to use them. That way when I got home from work, I wouldn't feel like I was going into a second job. If I felt energized to continue to do more work, I would do that. But if I was tired, I would just rest. I would take a break because I know that I handled as much work as I could during those times. So with the times that you have, try to make the most out of it. And I know it's easier said than done. Again, we all have different jobs and things like that. Some of us have a little more downtime and wiggle room than others, but you have to find those times within your schedule, within your day. If you just need more debriefing time to breathe and to just woosah. I was one of those people, like when I got off of work and I pull up to my house, I would have to sit in my car for a little bit just to breathe, because I knew that once I go in the house, I'm gonna have to deal with other people and things like that. But you have to find ways to steal time and make the most of your day, because unfortunately it doesn't matter, like if you think all of your ducks are in a row, there's always going to be something else to do. And that goes back to changing your mindset as it relates to work. There's always going to be something to do, but it's up to you to create that schedule and find a way to balance it. And then lastly, I had to learn how to stop working against myself. Like I mentioned in my 2022 recap, after working for so long, after praying and desiring to be in the position that I'm in, once I finally got it, I started feeling like I wasn't doing enough or that I had to do more. And in that instance, I was working against myself. Once God elevated me to this new position in my life, the first thing that I tried to do was clutter it up. And so that's why I mentioned earlier about learning how to practice more gratitude, because that's what I had to go back and do. I had to basically calm down and say, girl, chill. And I had to go back and thank God for it. And in the process of expressing that gratitude and thanks to God, He affirmed me that it's okay to rest for this period. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, entering this new space in my life is scary. Basically, the last 3 months, when I was waking up every day, I had a choice on whether or not I wanted to get up and film content, or whether or not I just didn't want to do nothing. And that was the first time I've ever been able to experience that level of just like rest and peace and fluidity like that before. By no means am I rich, you guys. I'm comfortable right now, but I'm not rich yet. So because of like my old habits, I just started to get anxiety, like, okay, I gotta do more work because I gotta make sure I got enough money. But God had to remind me, like, girl, you're good. I've been sustaining you, and He has sustained me these last, going through the holiday season, birthday, spending money, because I spend money, okay? And through all of that, like, my lifestyle has not changed in these last 3 months. I'm still living very comfortably. And so, like I was saying, we have to learn how to not work against ourselves. If God has blessed you with something, you are free to enjoy that blessing. And that's something that I'm constantly learning in my life, is it's okay to enjoy whatever it is that God has blessed you with in the moment. You don't always have to be constantly working towards your next big thing. Once you accomplish something, spend time enjoying it. But that's gonna be it for this video, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Let me know how you maintain balance in your life, or if you're struggling to keep that balance, what's something that you want to start implementing to help create that balance in your life. But yes, if you're watching this, I hope that you were able to get something from this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Snatched by Sharmel, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.